One of the weird things that happens with entrepreneurs that are building companies that are growing rapidly, they're getting a lot of press, they're winning awards for best places to work. Buyers for those companies, mostly private equity, but family office, private equity, strategics, they do a lot of proactive outreach. So you're not thinking about selling your company, but you start getting calls. And if you're really, really noticeable and kind of on a good trajectory, you might be getting one or two a week, sometimes every day. Someone's reaching out, and it always goes the same. Ilko, have you thought about selling your company? And invariably you say, no, I haven't thought about selling my company. Well, we're buying companies in the XYZ industry. We love your business. We've been tracking your story. So all of a sudden they're like feeding into your ego. Yeah, our story's pretty good. And it always happens the same way. They go, well, why don't you sign an NDA, send us your financials, and we'll give you a rough idea what your company might be worth. Well, yeah, I'd love to know what my company might be worth. And every time they sign the NDA, they send over their financials, but they're sending over their financials that they're using internally. So they're either prepared by a bookkeeper or their CFO, or maybe they have an outside accounting company. But most companies' financials are designed and organized for internal purposes, not for investors to look at to decide how much a company might be worth. If you send your financials to a prospective buyer, you will be beholden to what's in those financials. If they are ultimately going to be the buyer of the business, you will suffer from what was in those original set of financials the entire time. Wow. And some things to think about, like maybe you run a car through the business, or maybe you have a vacation home and you run some of those expenses through, or maybe you have a family member on your payroll that does a little bit of work, but maybe you use the payroll to, all those things, you don't want to show those to investors ever, but they do it. They take their financials, they normally QuickBooks file, they send them off, and all of a sudden that prospective investor knows all your dirty secrets, they know all the things to lean in on, and when you do get into a negotiation, if they ultimately become a prospective buyer, it's really hard to take out of those financials the things that are in there already. So never, ever send your financials to a prospective buyer until someone that understands M&A and what investors look for goes through and normalizes out the things that shouldn't be there in the first place. It is literally one of the biggest mistakes, because entrepreneurs, most of the time, unless they're running a process, they're not thinking about selling their company. They're thinking about running their company, and they get excited when someone shows up with interest, and they give all their leverage away literally like overnight. And buyers have gotten really, really good at figuring out how to suck the leverage out from the entrepreneur, and then you chase that the rest of the time. So when someone shows up unsolicited, you can talk to them all you want. Do not share anything with them that would be used in a transaction until you've cleaned it up, vetted it, and are really thoughtful about the story, because financials tell a story. You want to be so spot on with the story that you're telling a buyer the entire time you're contemplating selling a company. I could talk about these ideas all day. I'm terrible at the call to action side, but here goes. If you liked what you heard, click the link below, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and definitely check out our podcast.